So a couple of days ago, the game director of Destiny 2, Joe Blackburn, made an announcement on Twitter that he was going to be doing a kind of year in review, or what he's going to be talking about in the years ahead. But now it's Monday, we can actually see what he was talking about. And I know it's a Tuesday when I'm uploading this, but still, it's just sticking to my upload schedule. And this is pretty much going to be summarising quite a few bits and bobs that I spotted throughout the whole thing, so if you want to read the whole article yourself, it is in the description below. So besides him talking about some of his experiences in game, he basically goes over what the 4 big goals are going to be for Destiny going up to the final shape, which is expanding players' imaginations, bringing back challenges to Destiny, enriching the content that's already there, and connecting all the Guardians. So the gist of what he's trying to say with expanding the Guardian's imagination is basically they want us to wonder more about what's coming up rather than just being quite clear-cut and predictable, which I'm all for. I've always been a massive fan of like the secretive side to missions and whatnot. It's nice to have a sense of wonder in an RPG like Destiny because a lot of things can happen. But alongside this, he actually does bring out some news about the new season, which is going to be Season of the Defiance. And I'm going to say I am a fan of the new armor sets. They do look pretty cool for a Royal Guard kind of look. And as quite a few people predicted when it came to the season, it is going to be about Morozov. So it's going to be a nice blend of enemies when we have to deal with the Cabal and the Vex on Neomuna, and then probably come back and help Mara with the Taken. But a key point he actually makes in this article is that we don't actually need Umbral energy anymore to focus engrams, which is really good news for me because I hate the fact having to carry around loads of Umbral engrams and then get the energies for them, so this is a plus for me. He does say we will only need Glimmer and a seasonal engram, so seasonal engrams, for those who are a bit unaware of this, it is basically going to be a season-specific engram that drops, and when you get these season-specific engrams, instead of them going into your inventory, so we're always capped 10, they actually will head over to the seasonal vendors and be stowed there, so you can stack up a nice inventory with them, and then just decode them when you get the time, which is another really good improvement in my eyes. Another really good addition they're going to be doing to the seasons as well is that they are not going to be doing the currencies anymore, so instead of the currencies, we're going to have seasonal keys. And you can get these keys from literally any kind of event. They don't say it's guaranteed, but it's going to be acting more like a true bonus and not tied to seasonal currencies or activities anymore. And the gist that he's trying to make with this is that the bonus chest should literally be bonuses and not just another thing to do on the seasonal. But in this little bit, he does actually mention something about Season 21, which is known as Season of the Deep. I do actually want to make a separate video on this, so look forward to that in the future. But concerning this post itself, there isn't a lot of detail about Season of the Deep, we just know the name. But the last bit he does touch on here is that we're going to be getting Guardian ranks into Lightfall, and the best way to think about Guardian ranks is they're going to be replacing the seasonal rank next to your name and adding in a Guardian number rank. So this is going to be interesting to see what it's like when it comes, but we won't know much more until Lightfall. Now then, there is a few bullet points on crafted weapons that are going to be starting in Lightfall, and this is going to be another interesting thing because when the new raid drops, we are going to get adepts, as you can imagine, but they have the ability to become enhanced. So what is an enhanced weapon? They are basically going to be crafted, uncrafted weapons, if that makes a lot of sense. It probably doesn't. But the idea behind this is the new raid adept weapons don't actually have crafted rolls, but when you get them and you get a roll that you really like, let's say a god roll for example, then you can actually enhance them, which will allow them to start gaining levels, use mementos, and also gain access to the enhanced perks and intrinsic properties, but only on the rolls that you have on that weapon. So let's say theoretically if you had some kind of SMG with kill clip and you wanted to enhance it, you could then get enhanced kill clip with that gun. You wouldn't be able to then swap the perks in between, obviously, so don't go thinking this is an easy way to just swap everything around. It's not. And they do also mention that long term, they want to expand this functionality out to pretty much every weapon that's not craftable, but at the moment, they are only doing this for the new raid weapons. They are also making changes to deep sight weapons, so you will never actually get a deep sight weapon unless it's for a pattern that you don't have. They also mentioned that in Season of the Deep, they're going to be adding a mechanism to activate deep sight, which will basically let you get more of the red borders you need for a pattern. Next topic they're going to talk about is bringing challenge back to Destiny, which I think we can all agree with because it is extremely easy to run through any strike now. You can pretty much switch off when you run through it, so there's no challenge when it comes to that. It's starting to get to a bit of a point where even the end game stuff is getting a bit easier, so it is a bit understandable that Bungie does want to take this approach, or Joe has made this approach. I'm not sure which decision this was. But he does mention this is a two-pronged approach. It's not quite simple as just whacking everyone's health up because that doesn't help. Instead, they're going to be looking into two things. They're going to be looking into actually how much damage the enemies are dealing as well as how much health they have. So tuning that to make it a more acceptable challenge without being ridiculously tanky or difficult. So we don't want people getting one shot, for example. And then on the other hand, they want to try and look at the player's efficiency. So when we pick meta builds, for example, and we just blitz through everything, they don't really want that to be the case. So they are going to be looking at some weapons and abilities like pretty much every single season that they do, and probably going to have some nerfs and buffs along the way. But speaking of buffs and nerfs, there is actually something that was confirmed in the ability tuning preview, which Joe does mention here, and it is basically that they're going to be increasing the ability recharge across a wide selection of abilities, which is really good because I love using abilities. But there is also a nerf/negative that comes along with this, so they're going to be adjusting the damage resistant mod. So instead of it costing 1 energy for the minor mod and 3 for the major, it is now going to cost 2 for the minor and 4 for the major. So this will be exactly the same as your recovery mod, and I'm going to be honest, it does make a lot of sense for it to be that kind of cost. Especially since the alternative would probably be they reduce it again, which would it would not be good. So now they're actually talking about the enemies in this little section, and apart from Joe saying knob quite a lot, we're going to move on and ignore that. But it's basically talking about the new battlegrounds, where we had a substantial difference in difficulty when we were dealing with it, because even now, I'm pretty much max light at this point, and I'm still getting punted by quite a few enemies when I'm getting swarmed, so there is an element of difficulty in the game still. But he does mention that the reason for this is because they've been trying out a new difficulty modifier, which is promising to see, but anyway. So they are going to be trying to roll it out into Vanguard Ops and also into the seasonal playlist as well, which is really good. It basically means everything will just be a little bit tougher. And they're also going to be putting this on Neomuna as well, so the Cabal are going to be very dangerous when we're going to be dealing with them on there. Now they talk about enriching the content. So straight off the bat, there is a little bit of an article about PvP, but I'm going to be completely honest, this isn't good enough for the PvP players. I'm not a PvP player or Crucible fan myself, I don't really indulge into that. But having one new map in 3 to 4 seasons is just not good enough. I know they're experimenting with different game modes and things, but there just doesn't seem to be any focus whatsoever on PvP when it comes to things like this. They're just getting into the article. They're talking about an old game mode called Countdown, which they're going to be trying to bring back. I personally wasn't around for Countdown, but just by the gist of it, it does seem like it's a bit like Rift, so I'm not going to be interested in that. And then there's going to be another game mode called Checkpoint Control, and the gist I get from this is it's going to be all about momentum. So if you have more momentum, you'll just destroy the other team, also known as Eruption, but not the point. And then in my eyes, the only bit of positive news of this article for PvP players is that you're getting a brand new map in Season 22, which is not Season of Defiance, not Season of the Deep, it's the season after that. So you still got 3 seasons to go. Honestly, this map should be coming out in Lightfall, and there should be another map taking the place in Season 22. Like, if there was a new map every 1 or 2 seasons, I think a lot of PvP players would be okay. But obviously, you'd have the people who play PvP constantly not being happy with it, but sometimes they just can't be pleased. And everybody has limited resources and they can't do everything at once. It's not that kind of game. But it would be nice to see them take a focus on PvP one season. Anyway, out of the negativity, the exotic mission rotator. Now, this I am actually all for. Besides the fact that this is starting all the way in Season 22, which I'm a bit annoyed at, but either way, the gist of the exotic mission rotator is that we are getting Presage back. And if you didn't get a chance to play Presage, then you are in for an absolute treat, because in my eyes, it was probably the best exotic mission Bungie has made in a while. So the exotic mission rotator is going to be a lot like the dungeon rotator, except for I think it will be in a separate panel. And it will basically be that we get to go back and play Presage, Vox Obscura, and Operation Seraph Shield when they get sunset at the end of this season. Gonna be honest, Presage and Operation Seraph Shields, I love both of those missions, so by all means. Vox Obscura, not so much. I would have maybe preferred to see Harbinger in it as opposed to Vox Obscura, or maybe something from a really early season comeback, but I'm not going to complain too much about this. It's a good change. Also, speaking of changes, there is a change to the strikes. So, Lake of Shadows and Arms Dealers have both been reworked, which, I'm going to be honest, we kind of needed this to happen. I think you could beat Lake of Shadows in 3 minutes flat, so yeah, it wasn't a difficult strike at all. It is kind of understandable that they would rework this. Arms Dealer, again, there was some exploits that you could use. I imagine they fixed them now and actually done something about the bosses. So that might be difficult in the future seasons. And really good news for those of you who are sick of Exodus Crash and the Inverted Spire. Basically, their presence is being dramatically reduced in the Vanguard Ops playlist. So you can still run them outside the playlist, but when it comes to actually running strikes for your pinnacles, you won't see Exodus Crash or Inverted Spire basically ever. But this comes with a caveat that is both good and bad. So they're actually adding more battlegrounds into the Vanguard Ops playlist, which is going to be the highest battlegrounds that we've just gone through. They're going to be added to the playlist. And not only that, some of them are being made up into Nightfall level. So yes, there is now going to be such things as Grandmaster Battlegrounds, which, yeah, this is going to be fun when it comes to doing Conqueror Seals. As a last note for this, they actually do mention that they're going to be moving away from some things. So one exciting change that I'm looking forward to that they mention is they are moving away the initial source of obtaining exotic armor away from lost sectors and back into the core rituals. So That already to me is really good news because I don't like running lost sectors to get new exotics. I would much rather be able to run something new. Another really positive change for me is also that they are not asking players to earn all 3 ritual pursuit ornaments. So, for example, we've got the Velas X, you get a Crucible ornament, you get a Vanguard ornament, and a Gambit ornament. So instead of asking players to get all 3 of those for the seasonal challenges, they are not going to be doing that anymore. Whether that means they're going to be doing away with the seasonal ornaments or just not tailoring it to a seasonal challenge anymore, I'm not entirely sure. But they're going to be trying to tune the player experience so you earn more rewards doing what you enjoy, which I'm all for because I personally don't play Crucible. I very rarely play Gambit, and I'm mostly into the PvE endgame activities, so this is a nice plus for me as well. And the final bit of this post is connect our Guardians, and I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible because I understand this has stretched quite a long time already. But he's basically breaking down what is going to be the Guardian rank system, which we're going to get certain commendations like Pace Setter and Saint's Favourite, for example Trials of Osiris, and then you are going to get things like Perceptive and Knowledgeable when you were doing raid and dungeon content. And these commendations make sense. I assume there's going to be some for the Vanguard Strikes, Crucible and Gambit as well, but we're going to have to wait and see what they're going to be and how they contribute into the commendation system. But he does actually state those at the highest levels of Guardian ranks will have proven to be folks that are consistently appreciated by others in the community. But when he does go into this, he's talking about both sides of the spectrum. He's on about people who are doing their heavy lifting when it comes to organising groups of people. And then he does mention that there are some people who aren't going to be comfortable speaking up, but they are always there and doing what they need to do when they show up. So there seems to be a commendation for pretty much everybody, and that's a good positive way to look at this. I am a little bit concerned that some competition will be brewing from this, though. I don't want there to be any competition. I want this to be like a nice addition on top of what we have already and just be a way of appreciating other players. They also mentioned that they're going to be changing their chat. So instead of them having an opt-in system for your text chat, it is going to be opt-out instead. So what that basically means, so when you're logged into the game, you will automatically be opted in to see the text chat, but you can go into your settings and disable it if you want to. But he does also mention that over time they're going to invest in deeper chat moderation, better filtering, and bigger features like speech to text. So for people who actually talk within microphones and they need to communicate with somebody who will only read text, this is actually going to be a good feature. So when you're talking about raids, you can technically do it without talking to each other, albeit in a sense you'll be having a lot of text messages. And the last thing he mentions is the Fireteam Finder, which is the most anticipated change for me because this will allow you to join other groups very easily. The idea of it is we are not going to be going on our apps for the Destiny LFG tool anymore. We are literally going to be able to do it within game, and this will allow you to pair up with a numerous array of people who are doing activities. So whether people are trying to get a dungeon or a raid organized, or they just want some people to run some strikes or to go get an exotic, for example, then you can make a fire team and try and get 3 together to go and do it. And by the looks of it, they are going to be adding criteria to this. So when you make a Fireteam Finder fire team, you can basically set the settings to however you want to do it. So if you want to run Spire of the Watcher, for example, you will just have an LFG for Spire of the Watcher, and that will basically allow other players that are looking for that kind of dungeon run to then find your fire team, and then you as the fire team leader get to accept or reject their applications to join the fire team. But that is finally it. We are done with this article. Joe basically ran this with a lot of information. I'm going to cut this down as much as I can. Hopefully I've done a good job of that. But if you want to read the full thing, the link is in the description, as I said at the start of the video. But I'm done for now. Remember to leave a like and a comment down below, and I shall see you all in the next video.